Annie Ruler, you're the bomb. Thank you so much, girlfriend, for being here. Is the lighting okay or is it really dark? It's hard for me to tell. It looks really dark to me. Can you tell me if it needs more light or if it's all right? I'm so scared to touch everything. It's like I'm reinventing the wheel every flippin' day. I thought I was getting my laptop back today. I won't even tell you the whole long story, but I was told that I was getting my laptop back today. So, duh. Like I said, I don't want to waste any time talking about it. Um, let's see. Please hit your like button if you'd be so kind. It's been a while since you guys have seen the creepy hand, huh? And please share, subscribe, turn on your notification bell. Um, yeah, I had a really nice Thanksgiving. I got a lot done, and Nico Mingo, the lighting's fine. Thank you so much for letting me know. And I don't even know like what's in the frame of the freaking cell phone because like I said, I don't have my laptop back yet. I'm just going to assume that I'm never going to see that sucker again. Like maybe I should just buy a replacement so I have a backup when crap happens. But you know, patience, grasshopper. So I hope you guys had a really good turkey day. I got so much done. I allowed my family to do all the cooking. I made a salad, but I spent the whole day just cleaning up outside the house, you know, like tons of leaves. You know, I live in Ohio where we just have mass amounts of leaves dump every year. Hello, finally made it alive. And Pamela, yeah, so thanks so much for being here, you guys. This is awesome. I had to keep setting the time back because of the problems with this, that, and the other. I won't bore you with my problems. I always like to say, if that's my biggest problem today, I'm really lucky. But also, I was trying to catch Squirrels on Fire's live from last night. I caught almost all of it. I think it was slightly over 3 hours, and I think I've gotten to almost 3 hours. And she's been cranking them out. They've been really good. But what was weird was I like to be on her panel when she wants me on her panel. And I was under the impression that that was the deal for yesterday. And so I kept checking to see if she was on live, and it didn't tell me that she was. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's, a malfunction or what, but I thought that was really odd when I saw 2 minutes after she was live that she had been live. And I don't think she was blocking me or anything. I mean, Shan and I are good, right? Fred Field, hey, 2.5 hours into Shan's live too. Oh, awesome. So yeah, let's talk about that. What did I put for my thumbnail? I put a beautiful picture of Mo Wilson. It's one of my favorite pictures of her. I wanted to talk about justice for Mo. It's just such a devastating situation. I would imagine that her family is very relieved that the trial with Caitlin Armstrong's accountability is over and that she was found guilty and that she was fined $10,000 and sentenced to 90 years. But oftentimes that can be kind of a hollow sense of justice. So we'll get more into that. And then I put, of course, that I always want to talk about Kiely Rodni. I was going to write down my list because there's so many things I wanted to talk about. Maui and Idaho 4. And, I don't want to be spread out all over the place. But primarily, I wanted to talk about Mo and Kiely. And, I asked a question of somebody who's in law enforcement if, like, a love triangle type of homicide or violence, if that was considered domestic violence. And they informed me that in some states it is. And I thought that was really interesting. Also, you guys are probably well aware of the car crash that happened on Rainbow Bridge the day before Thanksgiving, so the day before yesterday. And that's the busiest travel day of the year. And so far, they've said that there's no signs that it was terrorism, like a terrorist attack. But I think that's the question on everyone's mind. But again, it could have been, and I don't want to be like on a domestic violence conspiracy theory, but it could have been like a homicide, suicide. It was a man and a wife that were in the vehicle. I think they lived on the other side of the state. So the accident happened in Buffalo. And the car is on videotape going over 100 miles an hour, like in a busy business type of area with the toll booths to cross over into Canada. And so they're going 100 miles an hour. Again, maybe the car was malfunctioning. And then it became airborne. And then when it crashed, it may or may not have been a fiery explosion. So typically explosions mean that it was intentional, right? And so they're kind of really downplaying that whole thing. Understandably so. I mean, you don't want to incite public panic or fear, especially before Black Friday. So how are you guys doing on your Black Friday? Sending love and light to all. Annie's back. Justice for Kiely. Justice for Kiely. Yeah. So yeah, that Rainbow Bridge incident was crazy. And was it the day before that that there was the shooting in Walmart, or maybe 2 days before that? And that was the other thing I wanted to talk about, was John Crawford. So John Crawford III was the black man who was shot in that same Beaver Creek Walmart location 9 years ago, when he was holding a toy gun that he was intending to purchase for his small child. And then he was in the cat food aisle talking on his cell phone, I think to his mom, trying to figure out what kind of cat food he was supposed to buy. His girlfriend was Tasha Thomas, was in the Walmart with him, and then she died in a fiery car crash, a very suspicious fiery car crash. 4 months later, on New Year's Day at 3:30 in the afternoon, again in a very congested type of residential area where you really couldn't go 100 miles an hour, according to people who are familiar with that area. And her car allegedly was going about 100 miles an hour. So also a single motor vehicle car accident, also a fiery explosion. And then that's the same type of thing that happened to Chief Pelletier's executive assistant over there in Maui. I'm not saying they're connected, because I seriously doubt that they could possibly be. I'm just pointing out the same type of suspicious car accidents. The one with Tasha Thomas, the one with the executive assistant for the new police chief. He'd only been in his position for 2.5 months when that happened to her. And she'd worked for the Maui PD for 30 years. So it's just odd. Those two accidents kind of make me scratch my head and wonder, is that how you do a professional hit, allegedly, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion? Everything I say is simply my opinion, simply for the sake of conversation, always hoping to open up an intelligent discussion and learn something. I hope that we can all learn together. My videos are made for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. So yeah, I have no idea what was going on with that car with the Rainbow Bridge. They could have had a car malfunction. They could have been, like I said, a murder-suicide type of thing. I'm not sure if it was the male or the female of the couple that was driving. Buffalo is a high crime area, and you know, kind of that mafiosa type of crime. You know, the what do you call it? Cement shoes at the bottom of the river, kind of like Ms. Kiely Rodni. But again, here I go all over the place. So we're going to focus on Mo Wilson, and then we're going to focus on John Crawford, and then we're going to focus on Kiely. So let's go with Mo. I told you guys in the last live, and I'm so sorry, it feels like forever since my last live. Was it Tuesday? Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. And then, so really it's only been 3 days, but I can't stand going this long without a live. I told you guys I'd be doing a live on Wednesday, and I was unable, and I thought for sure I'd have my laptop. So anyway, I told you guys the mistake that I made about the amount of money that Caitlin Armstrong owed to Colin Strickland. And I had been under the impression that that was $300,000 that he had loaned her for some type of business venture, but it was closer to $500,000. It was like $450,000. So to me, that is a huge chunk of change and could well play into the motive of her being afraid of losing her boyfriend, who she owes $500,000 to, and that he might demand repayment. And then also for him not wanting to be out $500,000 when he knows very likely that she doesn't have it to repay him. And so he's going to try to do everything he can to get his money back. I mean, can you imagine loaning somebody $500,000 and then having things go toe up? I mean, I'm under the auspices of never loaning money to anybody, that if you have money and somebody needs money and asks you for money, gift it to them. Don't allow people that you care about to owe you money, because that's such a terrible predicament to be in. But it could be more convoluted than that too. It could have been like a tax shelter or something. They had a lot of business ventures, and I found it very almost funny, not funny, how in his testimony that he provided when he was being questioned about Caitlin's history and propensity towards being a jealous psycho, that he basically essentially said, you know, she's not that jealous of a psycho. I've dated far more jealous psychos. And again, to reiterate what I said the last time I brought that up, he, in my opinion, he's not making her look less psycho. He's making himself look like more of a womanizer who really brings that type of behavior out in people. It sounds like that there wasn't an attractive woman that he knew that he didn't date. That's what it sounds like to me. So, you know, his attitude of entitlement, I think that Caitlin shared that attitude of entitlement, and poor Mo got caught up in their web of lies, and it cost her her life. And then her friend Caitlin Cash, who we'll just call Ms. Cash, her life is fairly ruined too. I don't like saying that, because I do believe that we can all recover from every trauma that we endure. But I would imagine from the testimony that she's given and her witness statement at the end, that it changed her forever in a very disheartening way. She had been performing CPR on Mo as soon as she got home and saw her covered in the red stuff laying on the floor. I think it was in the bathroom. And so she called 911 while she was performing CPR for 10 minutes. She didn't know what had caused Mo to be on the floor or what caused all the red stuff. But later we find out that it was 2 gunshots to the head and 1 right through the heart that actually went into the tile floor. It went all the way through her. So head injuries bleed a lot. A lot. So she already had 2 in the head, and then she had the one where, according to the forensics, the shooter would have been standing right over her at close range and shot her right in the heart. So here, Ms. Cash is trying to revive her friend, thinking, you know, I'm sure her friend was, forgive the delayed trigger warning, but I'm sure her friend was still warm, hadn't gone into rigor mortis yet. And she was fully expecting that she was going to be okay. And even when law enforcement got there, when the first responders got there, and her account of it was that, you know, she didn't want to leave the space where Mo was when they were trying to take her into a different area of the house, of the home. And then when they were interrogating her at the police station, she didn't, she kind of had a flip out moment where after 3 hours of being interrogated, they finally allowed her to wash the red stuff off of her hands. And that as it was coming off in the sink, she wanted to grab it and put it back on her hands. I mean, that is just like the saddest thing in the world, because it was the last piece of her friend that she felt like she was going to be able to touch. Like, that just makes me want to cry. It just makes me want to cry. But again, to have this happen at her home, where this is what you call true survivor's guilt, where, you know, had she been home when that happened, she probably would be in the same position that Mo Wilson is in. Had Colin gone into the home with her, he probably would right now be 6 feet under as well. So Ms. Cash has that survivor's guilt of, oh, if I only got home an hour earlier, but then might I be deceased too? Or maybe I could have, you know, protected her. The door would have been locked. You know, things would have happened differently, certainly. And same thing if Colin had come in, if she had invited him in when he dropped her off. So it doesn't seem like he's suffering from that survivor's guilt. He seems very defensive and manipulative, like I said, entitled, and I hope that he is held accountable. I hope that the family seeks further justice. If not a criminal trial, that's probably off the table since Caitlin's convicted, then maybe a civil trial, a wrongful death suit, and then they could sue him for every freaking penny that he has. Would that be so cool? In my opinion, that would be really cool. So let's see, my store decided today would not be that busy, do online orders. So gave us all stalkers 4 days off, LOL. Well, I hope that that's a good thing, having the time off. You know, there's of course the missed income unless you get the holiday paid, then that's great. Hey squirrels, late but present, but totally here for it. Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Shan. So I've caught almost all of your live from last night. And for those that don't know, let's talk about Kiely and then we'll talk about John Crawford. For those who don't know Shan's live last night, she was going over the call logs from the 911 calls the night that Kiely went missing. And it was Illuminated Mind, I think, who did the public records requests. I know on YouTube, a lot of people call them FOIAs, for the Freedom of Information Act. I'm used to calling them PRRs, public records requests. So I try to call them FOIAs when I'm doing a YouTube video, but if you hear me say PRR, that's what it is, public records request. So anyway, thank you so much for breaking it down, Shan, and going through each single call. And it really is looking like, at this point in your video, where, you know, I'm probably like 20 or 30 minutes towards the end, it's really looking like they knew that somebody was missing much earlier that night, like at least by 4:30 in the morning at the latest, right? And that would be insane if, law enforcement, if the first responders knew that the 16-year-old girl was missing and that they were part of trying to throw this time frame off for the next day for the 9 o'clock Starbucks meetup and then the 6 o'clock 911 call from Lindsay, it wouldn't surprise me. Nothing in this case would surprise me. Bless illuminated mind. Yes, both of you. Hello, Kenny's here too. One more hour or you're live to watch. Oh, Fred Field is almost done with it too, squirrels. And so yesterday, while I was doing all my yard work, I was reviewing the live from the night before last. And that live is really good. Like there's 3 in a row now that are all rehashing the first hours and first days of when Kiely went missing. And so far, for me, you're batting 1,000, like 3 for 3. They're really fascinating. Like it seems like it might be tedious. It sounds like it could be a tedious thing and probably is a tedious thing for you to be doing. But the delivery of it in the videos, to me, is extremely interesting. So thank you so much. It's looking yikes, but also tell the truth for Kiely. Yeah. Kenny says, back up all our theories that whatever happened much earlier. Exactly, it does back up. And he wrote backs up all of our theories. I misread that. It really does. It really does. And it ties in more with that, that 911 call from Sacramento with the female that didn't have a shirt on, jumping out of a silver SUV and then being pulled back in. Like that was creepy AF. Again, whether that was Kiely or someone else, like that's just crazy and ridiculous, especially for people to try to write it off like, oh, it's not Kiely, like next, don't worry about it. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's not Kiely, like there's still something heinous going on. I mean, that implies a kidnapping, that she's trying to get away and that she's being pulled back in and that she's half naked or half dressed. Very, very creepy. Data facts, nom nom. I don't know what the nom nom means. Of course, I know data facts. Yes, Kenny. Hey, mom first. That was a wonderful breakdown. And Annie says, what upsets me about hashing and rehashing Kiely Rodni case is, will there be any legal actions? Hey, Laura. Yummy, num num data facts. Oh, you're eating up the data and the facts. Okay. I believe that there will be. I honestly believe that Shan is making really good headway, that she's being watched by people that matter, and that it's making it harder for them to skirt the issue. So recently, I'd kind of been on this jag of how come the Placer County Sheriff Wayne Wu, had not given any pressers. And of course, Angela was the spokesperson for the Placer County Sheriff's Department, but typically it's the sheriffs, it's the police chiefs. Those people are PR people. Like that's much of their job, is to talk to the public and to, disseminate facts and to try to quell public panic. So the fact that I don't think any of the officers from Placer County Sheriff's Department talking to the public. It was simply Angela Masala, or however you say her name. And to me, that makes it even more suspicious. Like, why not just deliver the information? As we all know that Sheriff Moon was delivering the information herself, and so was Captain Brown. So why can't Placer County law enforcement officials deliver their own information? And then we have so many of the people that were working on this case dropping like flies. So the night before last, Shan put in her live, and I'm so glad that this is in a current video, the emails from the campground employee that quit because she was so freaked out about what was going on over there at Boca. Shan, can you request the 911 calls made by the person who found the Yuba couple? Wonder who it was. Oh, what a great question, Kenny. So yeah, the Yuba couple that was also at the Hot August Nights. I just listened to the part from last night's live where Shan and Billy Darling, who is from the area, was saying, and I think she kicked you the credit, Kenny, that they were taking the long way home when they had that wreck. So that's also very curious. Like, what were they doing? Why were they taking the long way home when they wrecked and lost their lives? Sure is hard to lie through all of that. Scammy is a hired liar no matter what way you look at it. Well, I still think she had a lot to do with directly with Kiely's disappearance and subsequent unaliving discovery. So I do agree with you that she was used as a figurehead, you know, again, instead of Wayne Wu, who would have a huge conflict of interest. He'd only been in that position for 1 month, you guys, and thank you to Ara for looking that up. He had been in that position for 1 month when this beautiful 16-year-old child goes missing from Truckee, from the part of Truckee that's in Placer County, because most of Truckee is in Nevada County. And we all know May 15th, there was the affidavit written from a high-level attorney that outlined specifically Wayne Wu's most unprofessional and criminal behavior, statutory R, with a young person who was an explorer, and this was on the clock, on company time, in uniform, in a car, while this explorer is trying to learn something about law enforcement. And then he orchestrated her taking care of a pregnancy, if you know what I mean. And he admits to the affair. He admits to the illicit behavior, and then tries to pretend like he didn't know she was under 18, which is, to me, immaterial, except that then you have statutory on top of all the rest of it. So for him to then be the figurehead of a missing 16-year-old 4 weeks into his position, and maybe his son was at this party, for all we know, he was at the quote-unquote party. I mean, I am extremely suspicious of law enforcement. And yeah, they allowed Scammy to delegate and spearhead a search, interrogations, questioning, information gathering. What? That's unheard of. And that falls on the law enforcement officials, specifically the supervisor, the leadership. So that would be Wayne Wu. And we can probably make complaints against him, I would think. They also need to change these leniency laws. No other state has let it slide kind of laws. And what they let slide is why it's happening to these kids, minors, and babies. And Nico says fentanyl awareness in Truckee back then was in full swing in Truckee, but no reason to test for it at autopsy. Yeah, good comments, you guys. Thank you. So yeah, also Shan, in looking through all of the 911 calls the night of the quote unquote party, a lot of DUIs, a lot of DUIs. And I don't know if you were looking at ages in those, if these were all underage DUIs, but like all of the DUIs were ending in the cars being towed, right? And they were all like before 11 o'clock, so it was looking like it could have been minors with a curfew of 11 o'clock, because I do know that California is pretty strict on the curfew laws. Okay, if I have this right, according to the map, Kylie's car last seen at 1:30 and call log said 911 missing person 4 or 4:30 a.m. That's 3 hours or so. Yes, I have never believed their story. Hey, Laura and Dana, I wonder about the Julissa Fuentes case the AWP did after Kiely. That ending was sus to me, and how she was found. That also happened the same weekend Kiely went missing. Right. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Dana. So for people that don't remember, Julissa Fuentes went missing pretty far south of where Kiely went missing from. I want to say the town that Lacey Peterson was from. So that county, it's very far, maybe 4 hours south. And then she was found by the county sheriff by himself after midnight, off duty. What? Does anybody remember the name of the town that that Lacey Peterson was from? Incredible chat right now. Oh, that's so nice to hear. Because yeah, I was like, this is going to be the worst live ever. I was going to start by saying that and hoping that I would jinx it and make it not the worst live ever. But yeah, before I forget, I want to mention the community post that I put up late last night, of the last proof of life photograph of Kiely, not Kiely, next to a photograph of Scammy that's like almost the exact same angle, you guys. And never before have I been so convinced that that last proof of life photograph is not Kiely, that it is indeed Scammy. Never before have I been so convinced. And I took the screenshot from Squirrels on Fire's live from the night before last, and you had said that somebody sent you that, so I don't know if it's somebody who we can mention to give credit to, but check out that community post, you guys, and please comment what you think, and what camp you've been in. Like, have you been in the the proof of life photograph is Kiely, or have you been in the camp that it's not Kiely? And then looking at that side-by-side comparison, does that influence you in any way? Dana, feels like the police state is what we have. If establishment does not like what is around, they dig deep. Oh, is that the name of the county? Merced. Yeah, I think it maybe was Merced. What is the name of the town that that Lacey Peterson was from? For some reason, I'm just not coming up with it. Town pretty far due east in Central California. Anyway, let's see. Tiff dropped it in Discord. Thank you. A while ago, I've used it in all of the Scammy files, made shorts. Oh, very cool. See, I don't know that I've seen them, because shorts kind of drive me nuts the way they go in loops. And so it might have been a bunch of shorts that I missed. I try to watch shorts, but it just, they annoy me. And I don't think I've seen that side by side. Maybe I did, and it's just been a while and it faded in my memory. Maybe it didn't impress me so much before. But at this point in time, it really impresses me. The shape of the chin, Scammy kind of has a divot in her chin, and that's extremely rare. Those divots in the chins are very, very rare, because some people in my family have those, And again, I wonder what Google has to say about it. It's a very small percentage of the population. And Kiely does not have that divot in her chin. She has a real pointy chin, like a real German looking chin. And then the nose is sloped the way Sammy's bridge of her nose is sloped. And Kiely has a pretty prominent nose, like pretty straight, maybe even a slight bump in it. And then the cheekbone, the apple of the cheek, is a perfect match to Scammy's. And I don't know Kylie's cheekbones. I mean, they're both extremely pretty young women. I mean, Scammy is disgusting in my opinion, but physically she's got very striking features, and they do look similar. Kiely was a lot taller and a lot more slender and probably a lot more talented and probably a lot more sought after by the same boys that Scammy was crushing on, right? Jägermeister and the Hamburglar. I don't know if she made it, but I appreciate the pic she put together and her shorts. Modesta, thank you, Annie Ruler. Modesto, I knew somebody would come up with it. I think that that's the town that Julissa Fuentes was from, and that whatever county Modesto is in is the county where that sheriff found her on off duty, 12:30 at night by himself, like sus AF. And then again, just like the Placer County and Nevada County, the California sheriffs are also the coroner and also the public administrators. So it's pretty easy for them to do whatever the F they want to do. So let's see. Scammy is a porker now. Too many parties. Fred Field, you know, I don't want to body shame, and I'm not saying that you are. You know, women, we fluctuate in our weight a lot, and you know, photographs, cameras put on 10 pounds, right? And it's really not about body shaming, but when people's weight fluctuates, when it goes up or down, it's unusual and it's noticeable. And it seems to me that in photographs of Scammy prior to Kiely missing, it seems to me that she slimmed down really quickly, a lot, like maybe as much as like 30 pounds. And she looks like she's probably about maybe 5'4", which 30 pounds is a lot on a person that size. And yeah, I haven't seen photographs of her lately looking like she's put weight back on, but the photographs immediately following Kylie's event, Scammy was in incredible shape. I mean, we probably all remember the photos of her with alcohol in a hot tub in the lime green thong bikini, as well as a whole bunch of other photographs. That girl is smug, and talk about manipulative and entitled. Very, very concerning. If she is getting away with what it looks like she's getting away with, that's an extremely dangerous person to have. Bars, not in a cage. Hey, Billy darling, my new mod. Hit that like. Okay, so I wanted to transition over to the John Crawford case. John Crawford, again, to refresh anyone's memory, and telling truth would help her alcohol and drug addiction, and a therapist there might be help for her. You know what, Squirrels, you were so kind to think about helping a troubled youth, because yeah, if she's 19 and she is behind the ceasing of life for a young woman in her social circle, yeah, she's a really messed up individual, and her whole life will be a nightmare and not just dangerous for other people, but dangerous for herself. Self-harm and self-injury. I've been concerned from day one with all of the youth in the Truckee community around this case, the self-harm and self-injury. I've been very concerned, and especially questionable, suspicious unaliving that is made to look like self-harm or self-injury, you know, more cars blowing up or those kinds of things. Shan is a sweetheart. Yes, isn't she? 30 pounds. I did walking and keto, not meth. Well, you know, I lost like 50 or 60 pounds a few years ago, like all the baby weight that I'd been carrying for 15 years came off when I had my thyroid medication adjusted and another medication added to stabilize my blood sugar, because I'm not diabetic, but I'm like hypoglycemic. And it was so nice to have the weight finally come off. But you know, it's also nice to know what it's like to be packing extra pounds on and to see how shallow a lot of people are. That, you know, they'll be nice to you when you're slender, but not nice to you when you're not slender. I'm glad to have that information. I'm glad to know that about people socially, people that are family members. I would much rather have that information than not have that information, because I want to know who those people are, because that's extremely shallow and extremely uncaring. And I think most people that have weight issues have health issues, and a lot of times addiction issues too, whether that's food or substances or alcohol. So yeah, she's definitely involved in the cover up. Scammy. Let's see. SS is sus AF. Absolutely, Billy Darling. Cultist Truckee, stress dieting, ranch boss. Yeah, stress is like the worst kind of diet, or, you know, being ill. Sometimes people lose a lot of weight with the flu, or something like that. And then people start showering them with attention and compliments. And it's just like, you know, the weight was lost because of severe pain and suffering and maybe near death experience. And, you know, people just need to get over their shallowness with our body images, especially for females. Don't you think? Don't you think? Anyway, let's talk about John Crawford. He was the 23-year-old young father who was shot at that Beaver Creek Walmart. So we all know that this 20-year-old white guy went into that same Walmart a couple of days before Thanksgiving and shot 4 people. And from what I've gathered, it seems like they're trying to keep everything on the down low, and that it does look like it was racially motivated, and that 2 of the people that he shot were black, 2 of the people that he shot were white. I think 3 of them were women and 1 of them was a male. And I think that they're all in stable condition. The last I heard, anywhere from 1 or 3 of them were still in critical condition. But that was days ago, so hopefully it's lightened up. Anyway, he unalived himself, apparently, from self-inflicted gunshot wound. If you guys haven't seen the police body cam footage, that is easily available. I'll put a link to it in the description. And man, it's just like 2.5 minutes. And when I watched it, I just like, you know, you literally feel like you're right there with this cop who's just another day at the office and rushing into a giant box store where he knows there's a live shooter, and he doesn't know that the person is not still a live shooter. So, you know, you can feel the fear, you can smell the fear, and bless him for just rushing in there. I mean, you can tell he's trepidatious, you can tell he's scared to death, you can tell he's thinking, like, what the hell type of job do I have anyway? Why am I doing this again? But these first responders are trained at saving people's lives and protecting the public. So he went in there, he found the guy was already dead on the floor. Yeah, it's very chilly. Hey, Kimberly Walker. Hello, hello. People need to stop judging for looks and figure out how to truly see others. Exactly, Nico. Exactly. And yeah, you look at somebody like Scammy, who looks like a beautiful young woman, and you see the monster, and she don't look so beautiful anymore, right? Moms first, sadly, doubt parents. We'll see need for change. My kids saw dad versus mom lifestyles and made the right choices. Maybe they have a family outside Truckee to model. Treating others the way you want to be treated is the best rule of thumb, isn't it, Dana? Yes. Nico, what I like about YouTube is we are friends with the like-minded thinkers, not fashion judgers, as I lay in jammies, LOL. Well, I wasn't going to share with you guys, but since you brought it up, Annie, I'm actually in my jammies too. I do have jewelry on with my jammies, so I'm like dressing it up a bit. But yeah, it's nice to be able to share that information and laugh at myself. Annie, I don't think it is every parent in Truckee. Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, mom first always, because I do feel like sometimes things that come out of my mouth sound very generalized, like everybody in Truckee is in that same camp. And of course, there's going to be a wide variety. It's just that if you live in Truckee and you want to stay put, you kind of have to go with the same thing, or you will be shunned, if not worse, because there's that whole Truckee way, the contract, no surprises. Like, that is the craziest freaking rule of a community that I've ever heard of in my life. Love your neighbor at least as much as you love yourself. And mom, yes, select, but do their kids know? Ugh, tiny keyboard using the burner tablet. It sounds like it is very hard on parents who are trying to do the right thing. So, again, I'm moving over to the Crawford. So sorry, I'm not like, you know, saying you guys are doing anything wrong. I'm trying to focus on John Crawford and his father, John Crawford Jr., who has been consistent and persistent in trying to find justice for his son. So I put some of those articles, the links to those articles, in the last live that I did on Tuesday earlier this week. And there were real current things from this year and last where I don't know if settlements were reached, but I do know that Walmart has, I'm pretty sure that they've continued to deny culpability, and the Beaver Creek Police Department has also continued to deny culpability. For a while there, it looked like the caller that called 911, who straight up lied and said that he was pointing a gun at people, that he was going to be held accountable, and he wasn't. To my knowledge, he was not held accountable. So there's been no justice for John Crawford III's passing, and he has possibly 2 children survived, and I know his father and his mother. Oh, the kitty cat, sorry about that, you guys. Father and mother, and then that girlfriend, Tasha Thomas, that was with him, who also was unalived 4 months after him. That's extremely creepy, is an understatement. Creepy AF is an understatement. Let me try to drink up some of my coffee here. What time is it anyway? I'm way past coffee time. It's 2:30, but it's so good. I'll tell you guys my my indulgence. I actually have some heavy whipping cream that's not whipped, but just heavy cream in my coffee. Like, is that the best? It's not all heavy whipping cream. Some of it's half and half, but then a touch of that, and it is like dessert. So I have to keep drinking it. It sounds like it is very hard on parents who are trying to do the right thing. Who is a who who the F is responsible anymore? Apparently no one, huh? Um, Bueller? Kimberly, you talking Truckee or everywhere? So, I feel like I have my two older children that are 21 and 19 are extremely responsible. And so are my younger children that are 16 and almost 12, but the two older ones are extraordinarily responsible, and I'm proud of them for that. I don't want to credit myself or even their father, my husband, for the parenting, because I know that good parenting can go bad, and that kids make choices for themselves. So certainly what we do influences them. Speaking from my own experience, I know a lot of what my parents did, I would take note of and do the opposite of, because they were not the most stable, consistent people and parents, to put it nicely and politely. Um, but yeah, there are a lot of people who take zero accountability, and a lot of the blame game, and it's important to own it. It's important to own your actions, right? Ms. Thomas was killed on a Black Friday. No, she was, did I say that? No, she was killed on New Year's Day of the same 4 months after John Crawford was murdered at the Walmart. She was in a fiery single motor vehicle car crash on New Year's Day at about 3:30 in the afternoon. And when it happened, it was initially reported that it was 3:30 in the morning. And then when I was researching it and looking it up to talk about it for the last live, I couldn't find a mention of time of day anywhere. So all it says is like New Year's Day, or maybe even said New Year's Eve, but I think it said New Year's Day. And to me, that's a very big difference. At 3:30 in the morning, you would think that there's going to be a lot of people messed up, and fatal car accidents are more likely. But 3:30 in the afternoon, not so much. I mean, sure, it's still possible, but not as much. No one wants to be the adult. Also, America. Kimberly, hang in there on the keyboard. My mistake. Okay. Nod's laptop got smashed when I was in hospital. Oh no. $500 repair estimate, Mac Pro. Well, yeah, I'm not real impressed with the Geek Squad that's been working on mine, because I had the insurance and they delayed the repair because they were trying to charge us $300 before they repaired it, when we have the freaking insurance. And then that got cleared up, but yeah, I'm not going to go into all of the frustrations, but yeah, I did throw a fit, and got a $200 gift card to Best Buy for throwing a fit, so that worked out well. That was my intention, was to get something for all my headache, because they've been horrible, absolutely horrible. The customer service has just been rotten to the core. On a street with no parking and no ability to speed. Yeah, Nico, roundabouts. So, Kimberly, sorry to hear. I got Wi-Fi after 22 days, had call all that time. Had cell all that time. Wow, 22 days without Wi-Fi. I go nuts when I don't have it for 22 minutes. Okay. So John Crawford's case, I'm hoping you guys please do whatever you can. I'm really hoping that his case will get more attention now because of the shooting that happened earlier this week. at that same location. So I had guesstimated that there were maybe 200 Walmarts in the state of Ohio, and I was so proud of myself when I Googled it. I was so close. 170, I think, was what it said. And I had also guesstimated that maybe there were like 50 Walmarts in a 50-mile radius of that location. And I was pretty close. I think it was about 40. So yeah, there's a lot of Walmarts in Ohio that have not had shootings in them. So I don't know how many have, but I know that there's people who think that it's just a coincidence. I don't think it was a coincidence, especially when the news is saying that it was racially motivated. So I started to say this, but I didn't say it. The shooter went into the Walmart and passed by a lot of people. He selected certain individuals for whatever reason in his 20-year-old brain. This white guy who then apparently unalived himself after shooting 4 people. But how terrifying, how flippin' awful. And, you know, these people that are supposed to work and shop and, you know, I mean, I've been very uncomfortable with Walmarts for a long time because of the John Crawford incident. You know, I shared with you guys the other day kind of the outline of what had happened with myself and one of my children in a Walmart almost 20 years ago. That, you know, we were unscathed, but the problem, in my opinion, is that Walmart has all these surveillance cameras and they're not taking any accountability for not managing the surveillance cameras and managing the crime that is captured on their surveillance cameras. So that's crazy to me. Let's see. Kimberly says, also, LOL, America is now safer. They told me I'm not allowed to buy a firearm. Y'all, LOL, got letter in the mail after hospital. What a way to make mental health hospitalization normalized, make you feel all fuzzy. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kimberly. Yeah. You know, it's a really tough predicament to be in. It's quite a debate, and you know, after each big shooting, it comes back into the limelight, and people fear losing their rights to bear arms. And you know, real quick, I don't want to get into a debate about it, but it's my opinion that you cannot put that genie back in that bottle. You can't say, okay, now aren't, you know, firearms aren't allowed. Like, the only people that are gonna give them up are the honest people. The criminals are gonna hold on to them, and then they'll have even more ability to victimize people. So I just don't think that it's something that we can put in reverse. I don't think we'll ever get that toothpaste back in the tube, so to speak. But yeah, you know, something's got to give. It's so sad how common it is. And, you know, when we see children, especially, and every school is locked. And yeah, it's just nuts. Kimberly says they sent this letter so fast. So how are these peeps getting guns still? Well, you know, a lot of them are sold on the black market. When we talk about trafficking, I know I don't normally talk about weapons, but that's part of the whole thing with trafficking too, is weapons on the black market. So, yeah, the fact that John Crawford was shot in his tracks while trying to figure out what kind of cat food to buy while holding a toy gun that he was intending on purchasing. And around the same time, that 12-year-old child, Tamir Rice, was in a park in Cleveland, also with a toy gun, and was shot by law enforcement. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's so many situations like that with firearms that aren't even real firearms. So it's extremely sad, and I don't even know where to go with that. Just that, my hope here is that John Crawford's case will have more attention brought to it, because I fully believe that if his situation had happened after George Floyd, that his family would have been enjoying a lot more justice than what they never got. I know the answer just thinking. Yeah. Yeah. So Maui, you guys, I put a link already in the description to the Maui alarm system. I think it's called Maui Alarm, and they've filed lawsuits against the governor, against the mayor, and against the police department over the whole passing of the buck for what happened with the fires on August 8th there in Lahaina. And yeah, it's just completely insane. In my opinion, it's completely insane that those three officials, those three top officials in that tragedy, have not been put on administrative leave and being investigated. We know that a lot of people stepped down. The housing authority woman stepped down. The fella who was in charge of the public safety, he stepped down right away. But allegedly, the law enforcement was not only blocking the exit routes, but also ordering people to turn around and head back to the danger. And I know that they've denied that, but there's been hard evidence. There's been testimonies, and testimony is considered hard evidence, and videotapes that show otherwise. And then you have people like John Pelletier, the police chief, denying that any of that happened, and then when presented with the hard evidence, then backtracking and coming up with excuses. So that whole thing about that there were live power lines down and that would be deadly, when they knew that those power lines were de-energized. Like, that was, everybody knew that downtown Lahaina had no power. So yeah, the power lines being down would be very dangerous if they were energized, but when they're not energized, you can pass by safely. So still sticking at that number of 99 victims, I'm still convinced that there were those people living in those encampments, people without traditional shelter that some people might refer to as homeless, that there were many, many, many of those folks who are unaccounted for and who aren't being reported. They're so strict in how they're taking missing persons reports and how they're not taking missing persons reports. And the police chief said himself that so many of these victims were just ashes, that you weren't gonna find any part or piece of them to identify. And then that whole thing when they were going through when they were dropping their numbers from 115-ish down to 90 something, and they were trying to say that they were able to consolidate all these body bags, and that they would find that there was, one person's remains in two body bags, or, two persons remains in one body bag. I mean, it was just nuts. And then going back to that 45-minute presser, that was the one where they had like the goon squad out there. They had the one little lady, they had Police Chief Pelletier, they had the guy who was like Homeland Security or something from Honolulu, and then they had the guy in the long white lab coat who was a doctor, who said that there were roughly 15 that were non-human. and like they ended the presser right there, like, oh, oops, put a sock in it. Like, so if there was roughly 15 that were non-human, then were they extraterrestrials? I mean, they were likely pets. They were likely wild animals. I guess there's a lot of wild boar in Hawaii. But also, I mean, I'm no hunter, but apparently I would imagine that this is true. And I've heard people in the know say, like, there's a big difference between animal remains and human remains. And you can tell right away, like, you're not going to get them confused. Like, that's just creepy AF. Sus peeps for Maui in Australia? Huh. Illegal for Walmart to use their information, but Constitution is under threat, I feel. Nods needs more compromise and talk through. Hello, outdoorsy life. Mr. Andaya. Yeah, that guy who was Native Hawaiian, who was the head of the public safety, who was the one who said, well, I didn't want to sound the alarm because people would have ran uphill straight into the fire thinking that I was sounding the alarm for a tsunami, when that was complete and utter crap. Like, straight up lies, you guys. Like, that is inexcusable. And, you know, I guess what, by him quitting, they think that they can say, well, he's at fault. He can take the fall. He's not there anymore. While still live. Hey, Mark Molina. We'll do replay. Yeah, I don't think I came on until 1:40 something. So it's just been slightly over an hour now. But I'm just so happy to be live with you guys. Let me show my creepy thumb again. Please hit that creepy thumb like button if you'd be so kind. And please share the video if you like it. Make sure you're still subscribed and turn on your notification bell to ring if you'd like to be notified. So yeah, I want to talk about Idaho 4 before we wrap up, and anything else you guys want to talk about. But let's talk about Idaho 4 for a minute, because man, that case is insane. And there's just so much runaround with this, that, and the other. And again, it seems so specifically cut and dry to be a load of BS. A load of BS from law enforcement, a load of BS from the surviving non-witness witness roommates, a load of BS from the people that were closest to the victims, like the Jacks, you know, the one who never returned anybody's phone call, including the parents the next morning. The Jack who left for Africa the next day and has maybe never been back. Adam, who was Jack D's roommate and maybe the bouncer at the bar, worked at the bar. The man without a face who's standing there talking to Jack S. and Adam right next to Jack D and Maddie and Kiely at 1:32 according to the timestamp. And now, why in both that and the Kiely Rodni case do we have these surveillance camera screens that look like they've been taken a photograph of with maybe like a cell phone camera from an angle? Like, why is that consistent with these two cases? That's so bizarre to me. That's so freaking weird. I do not believe in coincidence when it comes to unaliving. And I didn't make that up. I know that it's something a lot of people say, but I got that from one of my favorite movies, which is called Zero Effect. Zero Effect storyline. If you haven't seen it, I think you guys, if you're into true crime, I think you'd love it. Bill Pullman is playing like one of the world's greatest private investigators, and Ben Stiller is like his assistant or protege. So the movie is Bill Pullman's character trying to train, and Bill Pullman's character is named Zero, Daryl Zero. He's trying to train Ben Stiller. And, you know, it's a comedy. It's kind of a dark comedy. There's a lot of truth to it. You know, the irony is that the Daryl Zero is the greatest private investigator of all time, arguably, but he's just a hot mess. Like his personal life, you know, he lives off of tab, and just has zero social skills, and very bad at taking care of himself. And it's cute and it's funny, but the storyline is very insightful with things like there's no such thing as the dog's barking. It's making my brain go blank. No such thing as coincidence and homicide. The whole story starts with, you know, in training somebody to be a private eye, you need to learn the two OBS. I've said this a lot. You guys probably remember. Be observant and be objective. And those two OBS will keep you on track, being observant and objective. And then there's a third obvious, that's so obvious you don't need to mention it, but we so often miss the obvious. For instance, in the Idaho 4 case, you know, all these things about the freaking phone pings, about the criminal defendant's phone pinging in the vicinity of 1122 King Road, when hasn't it been established that the phone ping would be the same in Pullman as it would be in Moscow? I mean, am I confused? And the fact that that law enforcement kept changing the time frame, that initially these unalivings happened between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. And then that got shifted to after 3 a.m. And then we magically had a food delivery at 4 a.m., a Grubhub DoorDash delivery that was used in the PCA to say that nothing happened until after that DoorDash delivery. In the PCA, it says that it was delivered at about 4 a.m. That kills me. That's insane. They know exactly what time a DoorDash delivery would be delivered because of all the tracking that goes on with that. They know exactly what time. Why would they say about? Why not just give a specific minute? I mean, they've got also the Ring doorbell cameras that would show it. But you've got, typically, the person delivering is going to take a photograph of it and send that photograph to the person that ordered it. So that's crazy to say about 4 a.m. Like that right there tells me that that entire PCA is trash, because that timestamp of when that alleged food was allegedly delivered would be some of your strongest evidence that you could hang your hat on for your time frame. And your time frame is the essential foundation of building your entire case. So if they're throwing off the time frame and they keep moving it another half hour or hour, like, it muddies the water. And so going back to Kiely Rodni's case, and with what Shan's been looking at in all of the call logs in her live from last night, were there missing persons reports being made about Kiely that night? There were also a lot of hang-up calls. So there's a lot of similarities with Kiely Rodni's case and the Idaho 4. And I've said this once or twice before. Wouldn't it be nice if Kiely Rodni's case was being treated as an unaliving, not a self-induced unaliving, not a self-inflicted unaliving, but an unaliving from other? Wouldn't it be nice if that could be changed on the autopsy. Like, that's the first place you have to start. And the only way that that's going to happen, in my knowledge and experience, would be a family member taking that to court and challenging it. And at least getting the accidental, which is what it is officially deemed, to get it deemed as unknown. But still, even as accidental, that could still involve another. But until they can get that adjusted in the autopsy, I don't see there being a venue for any type of prosecution for wrongful death. So I know a lot of people have been bringing up too about creating safety measures at Prosser Creek Reservoir if indeed this was a wrong turn single motor vehicle car accident. Then why wouldn't there be measures taken to prevent that from happening again, right? Where are feds? Is that what it says? Or where? Let's see. 4 different looking BKs. Oh, I'm missing all these wonderful comments. I'm sorry. And I'm afraid if I touch it, I'll knock the phone down. They built the time frame on BK. Yep. Have you watched Once Upon a Crime Time? Bubbly Waters channel. Curious of your opinions. You know, Once Upon a Crime Time, I'm not sure that I know that channel, if that's the accurate name for it. And, you know, I know a couple channels that have names like that. And Bubbly Waters is phenomenal. And for me, she's sometimes hard to watch because it's just so much information. But I try to watch her as much as I can because it is so much good information. So I highly recommend Bubbly Waters. I will just be the first to admit that some of it is hard for me to wrap my mind around. You're right. Why the evasiveness to the minute about the alleged Elantra? Right. And the whole thing with the Elantra driving around in circles and making like a 3-point turn, I mean, that could be the food delivery person easily. Hold on, outdoorsy Bubbly Waters is the bomb. Yes, dang it, Nancy. She is. She's great. Bubs is my girl. Yeah, she's fantastic. She is really good. You know, she shows you the raw data so that you can come to your own conclusion. But yeah, she digs up so much stuff. And a lot of it is just the call logs. And it can be very fascinating. Once Upon a Crime Time has some intense info. If you get a chance, check them out. So yeah, I will write that down. Once Upon a Crime Time. Because I know I'm familiar with like Once Upon a Crime with a female that does it, and I'm also familiar with Crime Time Design and the other Crime Time that stopped a few months after I was pointing out how their profile picture was similar to Brent Kopaka's profile picture or something like that, and just how suspicious I was of their channel because they had so much solid information. That Crime Time was the one that was started last Christmas Day, December 25th, and then it was their first or second video on the 27th that was of that screenshot, still shot of the man without a face, Adam, Jack D, Jack S, and Maddie and Kaylee all in the back of the corner club. And, you know, there were a lot of people that had that still shot on that same day. There were several channels, but interesting for a brand new channel to be right on it. And then pretty much all their videos, I thought, had so much information that it struck me that that channel was very likely somebody in the law enforcement, in the local law enforcement. And, you know, maybe they were, maybe that was part of their job description, was to do something like that, to try to stir up information, fact finding. And maybe not. Maybe it was somebody doing that on their private time, which, if it was somebody from law enforcement doing that without specific instructions to, that would be grounds for not just dismissal, but, you know, probably criminal charges as well. Law enforcement is not supposed to be messing around with privileged information in social media at all. They're not supposed to be commenting at all. That channel is an insider law enforcement. I believe I know who it is too. I'm here, but measuring and cutting wood and L brackets. Hi, all. Hit that like button and make sure you're subbed and ring your notification bell. Dang it, Nancy. Was it Bubbly that said something about BK, and BK should have been a couple? Okay, too many BKs, but it was cute. I don't know, but yeah, it is odd that both are BK, you know, so I know there's been a lot more dust kicked up with the Brent Kopaka situation, because the body cam footage was released from the SWAT team incident. I don't know if the report has been released. So I was actually going to do a public records request for that myself and see if I can get a hold of the report from the SWAT team incident. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us have questioned the whole thing with, you know, both of these people being BK. It's again, coincidence? No such thing, right? Or a channel with similar name, Nico Mingo. Yeah. Yeah, there's I think a lot of people who comment in other people's lives. I haven't seen it in my lives in a long time, but for a while there were people, there were profiles commenting in my lives that I was very suspicious of. And I see those same profiles in other people's lives, and I'm like, oh man. So I think they kind of go after the channels that they think are making a lot of traction, maybe. And I don't know. I'm very suspicious of some of these folks, and also some of the content creators. You know, some of them are probably just random people doing weird stuff. Some of them could be insiders doing weird stuff. You know, there was a lot of that with the Watts case, and I think for a long time the true crime community had trouble believing that there were people on the inside paying that much attention to the true crime community, but it became very apparent that that's exactly what was happening. And, you know, just a lot of muddying the water and trying to spin things, trying to redirect the narrative. So, you know, I think that we see that in the Kiely Rodni case, definitely see it in the Idaho 4 case. You know, sadly with the Maui case, there's just not that much coverage. Brush Junkie did drop another one in the last 24 hours, I think. And she has footage in her latest one of her own visit to Maui. And I thought that was really interesting. And I just really like her approach. She's very like calm, and her demeanor is very unaccusatory, and just trying to be observant and objective. So I really appreciate that with any of our channels and any of our commenters. And, you know, I always try to bring myself back to that, just being observant and being objective and not missing the obvious, because that's the easiest to miss. You guys have probably heard me say one of my favorite quotes is, a fish doesn't know that it's wet until it's taken out of the water. It's kind of similar to not being able to see the forest through the trees. But I use that quote in real life all the time. Like, you really don't know what it is that you're in until you get that perspective when you're not in it anymore. Sort of hindsight is 2020 is another old adage cliche to describe that type of thing. Hindsight is 2020. That's why it's so important to readdress the same material that we've already addressed a bunch of times, because here we are, it's further behind us, we have more information, and just the passage of time is also information. You know, the fact, going back to Kiely Rodni's case, that all of that happened like almost what, a year and a third ago, basically. August 6th, September, October, November. So yeah, about a year and a quarter. And just that there's been no addressing of, well, whatever it is that happened that caused this person to allegedly drive herself accidentally into the water with her 9-foot arms from the trunk of her car, from the boot. I like the way the British call it, the boot. Yeah, in the hatchback. And then, you know, you've got these trucky teenagers putting these videos up on TikTok of a girl that looks like Kiely tied up in the boot of a SUV. Like, this crap is crazy. And why isn't that being looked at? Why isn't that being addressed? Why isn't that whole community paying more attention to the fact that they lost one of their own? You know, that saying, like, you know, a community that eats their young. It's so gross, but it's so relevant here, in my opinion. Let me see what you guys are saying. 1 year after the fact. Wow. Oh, 1 year after the fact of the Idaho 4? Because, yeah, we're a year and 3.5 months past the Kiely. Dang it, Nancy says, shady, shady, shady is what happened to a vet in Texas. There would have been a riot, in my opinion. I'm so glad you said that, dang it, Nancy, because, yeah, there's like veterans support groups that should have been throwing a riot there in Pullman when that happened to Brent Kopaka. He should have been treated as a protected person. He should have had special protocol, and it seems like there was everything but, like, zero. Idaho 4 won't get justice. Feds sitting hands. Yeah. Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty deeds. Yeah, and I think the same thing with Kiely Rodni's case. I think the exact same thing with Kiely Rodni's case. But, you know, I don't think it's a good thing just to give up. I think that, you know, you got to give it your best shot and attempt to get justice, even if you don't think you're going to get it. Kopaka, did I say it differently? Brent Kopaka. Body cam released. Right. Too little, too late. Yeah, the body cam release, I just wonder if the report's been released, because oh, you're saying a year from that, from the Kopaka, because yeah, December 15th, December 14th would be exactly a year, and here we are. What date is it? It's something like November 23rd today. My cell phone would tell me, but I'd have to mess with it, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah. Well said, Kimberly. Well said. Tell me you sit hands without showing me you sit hands. Well, and I do this with my hands a lot. I forget what that means. One of the content creators was saying that means something, right? It means that I'm like in the cult, or maybe I'm a Mason or something. I'm like giving a subliminal sign. I mean, I am not, but I'm sure there's people who might believe that. Oh, is it the 24th? Thank you, Death Valley Tiger. I like your handle. That's cool. I was close. I was very close. Yeah, so it is Friday the 24th, and it's Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. Again, I hope everybody had a really good holiday. That's a long time to wait on an official release of SWAT incident. It is. It's a very long time, Nico. I've never heard of that long of a wait. And it just makes me wonder, sort of like with the California Highway Patrol car accident report that's not come out from Kiely's car accident, if these things are ever going to be released or if they're just going to be continued. And then that way they can deny public records requests by saying, well, it's still an open investigation, so we can't share that information with you. Too long. Where is IA? I don't know if you're saying like Iowa or information affidavit. I'm not sure what you mean by IA, Kimberly Walker, if you want to explain. So yeah, you guys, I want to thank you again for being here. We're already at an hour and a half. That went so fast. So yeah, thanks a million for tuning in. And today was rough with the phone and not the laptop. I'm probably not gonna see that laptop for at least a few more days. I will try to drop 1 or 2 videos over the weekend just because I miss you guys. And yeah, it's something I really enjoy doing. So thank you for watching. I hope that you are feeling good and taking good care of yourself and drinking your water, eating your protein, turkey, ham, whatever it is, eating veggies and making sure that you're physically active. You know, I was at Best Buy this morning because they told me that my computer was ready, and sitting there and getting the runaround and it being Black Friday, and I never paid attention to how noisy it is in there. I'm sure it was extra noisy because of it being Black Friday, but just all the noise that is always in that place, like that can't be good for you. All of the electronic noise, all of the voices, all of the screens that they have on. Unbelievable. That's got to be really draining, I would think, on the employees as well as customers. So, you know, it just made me take pause and think like that we all need to be careful with the holiday season upon us, not subjecting ourselves to that type of sound, and the lighting too. The fluorescent lights are really bad for you. Bad for the brain, bad for the soul. And you guys know I'm doing my yoga training, so I'm really excited about not only learning it for myself, but learning how to teach others, and you know, just inviting more people to be more healthy, because I think yoga is something that often can seem very intimidating for many of us, and that it shouldn't be. It should be something that anybody can do at any age, at any health level or flexibility level. You are the designer of your own practice. So, you know, even if you're in a class online or in person and they're telling you to touch your toes and keep your knees straight, however it is that you need to do that pose is the right way to do it for you. And sometimes just passing or skipping on certain things is what you need to do. So it's really important to remain flexible physically as well as psychologically, and just to take care of ourselves on every level, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually. So it's one of the reasons why I love doing my YouTube. I feel like it keeps me sharper on an intellectual level than when I'm not doing my own channel. So thanks again. What's the biggest benefit that you're noticed so far? Dang it, Nancy, that is such a good question. You know, I was in really good yoga condition pre-COVID. I was doing a lot on a regular basis, like pretty much daily, and sometimes even more than one class in a day. And it was remarkable how much progress I was making doing it so routinely. And I haven't done that much yoga since then for the last 3 years. So initially starting out, it was very daunting to be getting into a yoga training class where other people are, you know, more advanced. And I was kind of embarrassed that I'm in poor yoga shape, is what I would say. You know, I'd been doing other types of exercise, but it's amazing to me how quickly anything comes back when you do it routinely and you do it often. So, you know, the more often, the better. Like, you know, once a week is good, twice a week is better, 3, 4, 5 times a week is even better. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do it every day, and really get my flexibility back and get my balance back, because balance is such an important physiological process for all of us. You know, most people can't stand on one foot for more than 10 seconds. So that's a good test right there. Just, you know, try to stand on one foot and, you know, try to work your way up to 30 seconds. Whatever it is you're doing with your other foot doesn't really matter. You know, there's like tree pose, or, you know, just lifting it straight up or straight back or straight out. Or not tree pose, but tree pose is like this, right? I'm trying to think what it's escaping me right now. When you have like your legs with one bent, I'll look it up. I'll put it in the description. So that's another thing that's challenging for me, is to remember all the names of all the poses. But the sequencing, I can say that word, the sequencing of your stretches is kind of what's most astounding to me with this course, because I've never thought about the sequencing. I just think about the stretches or the exercises. But you know, how you start and how you get from one pose to another pose, and how you warm up and how you cool down. It's all very fascinating. So thanks for asking. I hope that wasn't TMI. It is super cool. I wanted to do this for probably like over 20 years, and always thought that I would do it. It was something that I was preparing to do pre-COVID, and then that canceled classes everywhere for a long time. So, all right, you guys, peace out. Sending you light, sending you love. Have a fabulous rest of your Black Friday. Lay low, take good care of yourself. Hopefully you're in a positive place and recovering from all of yesterday's events, and hopefully you're just surrounded by people that you love, that care about you and that you care about, and that treat you well. I will see you on the next one. Thanks again, and have a great afternoon.